Hi, it's Khaliah here to answer any questions that you have. What I'll do right now is just give some time for some others to jump on.
I have that.
Hi, Amila. How are you today? I'm glad that you were able to join me. What I'm doing right now is just giving some time for some others to jump on, and then we'll go ahead and get started with the Q&A. So maybe about another minute or so. What you can do before we get started is if you have any questions, please go ahead and just comment below with your questions, and then I'll be sure to take yours first. Okay, so no questions at this time? Okay. I'll see if some others jump on if they have some questions. Let me see what time it is. Do you have any questions about real estate in general? Like any real estate investing questions?
Joking.
Just to refresh your memory, like some of the questions people have are, how do you get started? How much money is required? Let's see, you said, oh yes, do you have any good mortgage people that you deal with? Not so much. You're talking about like maybe to buy as a rental or to buy and flipping. Hi Simone, how are you? Thanks for joining us. What I would like for you to do is, if you have any questions, just go ahead and drop it in the comments, and then I can take some time to answer questions that you have. Okay, both. Not so much. Like most of the funding that I get, what I do is more so like group partnership type of deals. So that's where a lot of my funding comes from. I don't necessarily deal with regular traditional lenders. So most of what I do are like different collaborations. So I don't have any like particular lenders. I do have some, like if you're looking to flip, I can, after we're done, I can just go ahead and send you the information to those people. Hi Curry, how are you? What you can do is, we're taking some time to go over any questions that you have. So if you have any, please feel free to just go ahead and drop it in the comments, and then I'll go ahead and answer your questions. For group deals, what I was referring to is, those are deals like, let's say you're doing a flip. In the past, what I would do is put the deal out there so like people would know what the numbers are, and then from there, ask for like certain requirements, like certain amounts that people would have to invest in the deal in order to get a return. So that's kind of what I mean by a group deal. And some of those deals ended up being like more long-term deals. Like let's say it was a vacation rental. After they purchased it, then maybe after a year or so we would go ahead and sell it, but people would put in like a certain amount of money in order to get a return. And so typically, like once you get into real estate and people see that you're successful at what you're doing, then they're more likely to put up capital into your deal to actually get a return. Hi Hassan, how are you? If you can take some time, if you have any questions, to just go ahead and drop it in the comments. I'm taking some time to just go over different questions that people have. We were just sitting here talking about doing group deals and coming up with funding for those. Does anybody else have any questions? Let's see. Okay, so here's one. How do you feel about rehab projects? It seems risky, but with so many empty properties in my area, it seems like a good idea. Well, again, your market is going to make the biggest difference. So if you're in a market where people are not, where there's not a lot of activity, then maybe it's not so great of an idea. So what you have to really look at is the market where you're investing to make sure that if you do a rehab, that somebody's going to end up looking to buy your rehab on the back end. So you got to make sure the numbers work, because one thing you got to remember with rehabbing and just real estate in general, that you make your money when you buy, not when you sell. So when you go into it, you're going to have to try to evaluate what is the property going to be worth after you fix it up. So you have to look at, okay, how much is the property worth now? You know, how much construction is required? What is your property going to be worth when you fix it up? And then also, how much does the seller want to sell for? So you have to evaluate all of those variables to make sure that when you're ready to sell your house on the back end, somebody's willing to pay what you're asking for. My focus more so is residential, but of course commercial, you know, it's a little bit different when you get into doing leases and things like that. But in general, just in real estate, you want to try to evaluate, you know, what your future potential earnings are. But really, like for Simone's question, I would say you just need to be able to evaluate the marketplace. And that way you'll be able to determine how risky it is. Hi, Isha. Thanks for joining us. Now, Curry, when you say any commercial deals or just residential, what exactly were you referring to? I don't see. Aisha, if you have any questions, if you can go ahead and just drop it in the comments. Let's see. Here's another question. Salam, sister, getting back to the basics. It says, how much money do I really need for a seller's finance or a lease with an option to buy on an after repaired value home? So I guess the question is here, how much money do you need to buy, you know, a house where somebody's offering seller financing? Well, in any situation with real estate, it's all negotiable. So there's no really set amount of money that you need to buy. It all depends on what they're asking for. So there's really no set amount that I could really say, because with that, I mean, each deal is going to be different. You just have to start prospecting for those type of deals, and then just putting offers out there to see what they're asking for. Somebody could tell you they want 5% down. For seller financing, it really just depends. It could be 3% down. And so when I say 3%, I mean, like, let's say for seller financing, it's going to be 3% of the purchase price is what they could require. But again, that's really between you and the seller. So there's really no set amount that somebody could tell you that they want for you to put down. It's all negotiable. Does that answer your question for you, Hassan? Okay, so any other questions? Does anyone have any others? I'll just give another couple of minutes and see if someone else has any questions to ask. Okay, are we considering moving to Atlanta? Would you recommend buying or renting? I would say, again, I mean, with buying or renting, it depends on what the rents are going for. So if it's cheaper to rent than what it is to buy, then it would make more sense to rent. But if you can own a place and pay less than what the rental rates are going for, then it'd be better to buy. So it really just depends on what's going to be better, you know, what's better for your personal situation. Some people don't like buying because they don't like all the extra things that come along with buying, because then you have to upkeep the home. Like if anything breaks down, you have to make those repairs. So some people don't like the responsibility of actually buying. So it's really more of a personal decision. How do you build relationships with your investors? Simone just asked, how do you build relationships with your investors? For me, I just go out and network with people, like attend different meetings and different events where I know investors are going to be, and then I make sure that I actually get their card. And then one thing that you can do is after you get their card, you definitely want to reach out to people. So you don't want to just go to events, collect all these business cards, and then you don't follow up with anyone. You definitely want to make sure that you get the card and then call, and you can actually even set up like lunch meetings with people to kind of get to know them better. You know, ask them like what type of deals are they looking for, you know, what type of flips do they do, or what type of investing did they do, to find out more information about them. So I would say it's more about like meeting with people, following up with people after that main event. Okay, this person said they find the hardest part is finding homes for sale by owners in New York City. Where do I look for something like that? It depends. I do have some people that are located in New York City, and most of the people that I know there, they actually buy a list. So there are different vendors that sell lists, and you can buy a list because every county is different, every place is different. So sometimes you can go inside the courthouse. You know, if you can get the information for free from the courthouse, that's what I advise you to do. But if you cannot get it from the courthouse, the only other option would be for you to buy a list from a vendor. So how are you currently going after your motivated sellers? Uh-oh, is my chat box stuck? Okay, it's scrolling now. Okay, you say yes it does. Sorry, some of these messages are a little bit delayed. I'm looking now to see if there's any others. I'm not at all. Don't know where to start. Okay. And that's another thing that I go through in the course is basically like teaching you how to get motivated sellers. But definitely, when you look at motivated sellers, look at it from this aspect. You want to target people who are having a life-changing event. Most people who are having a life-changing event, that information is at the courthouse. So typically, the courts will require people to make a decision. So like, let's say you're going into foreclosure. You know, the bank will file something with the courthouse. And so that's why getting information from the courthouse is the best way to go about it. So like if somebody's filing for divorce, they got to file for divorce at the courthouse. So that's why getting information from the courthouse is the best route. And also, if you can get that information for free, sometimes it's even online. It depends on where you live. That would be the best way to go about it. But if you cannot get it for free, then definitely buying it from a vendor would be the better way to go. And I can help you more. Hassan, what I'll do is I'll drop a link in there, and then we can chat more so that I can go over your question in more detail in reference to like where to get started and things like that, because I can break it down for you even more. Hold on one second here. Okay, so are there any other questions? Okay, I don't see any other questions at this time. So what I'll do is I'll end today's session. But again, for those who have more or want more information or where to get started, what I'll do after this live Q&A, I'll actually drop the link in there for us to speak further. He said, oh, one last question. How to make money when renting apartments? I saw this was a thing. Well, yes, apartments is a whole nother venture. Of course, just looking at the rental rates, you know, looking at what your holding costs are. So most of real estate is just more so doing calculations to make sure that what you're doing is profitable. So of course you got to look at the acquisition costs. You know, does the property need work to fix it up? How much are the rents? And then figuring out, you know, what you can generate on a monthly basis. So most of the time we're buying apartment buildings. That is called a pro forma, but that should probably already be completed before you. Okay, I'm sorry, my screen froze. But it's called a pro forma. And when you're going to buy an apartment building, a lot of that legwork should already be done for you so that you have an idea of what you're going to make. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. So if you have any other questions, again, I'll just drop a link in there and we can talk further. And then, again, for those who have more questions, even after that, I can jump back on and do another Q&A. Okay. Oh, she asked about real estate school. I would say real estate school, it depends on what your goal is. So if you're the type of person that wants to work with customers, because with a real estate license, that's primarily what you're doing. You're working with customers. As an investor, the only good reason to have a real estate license would be that you have access to firsthand information as far as like doing your market analysis and things like that. So it really just depends. Of course, it does cost money to keep a real estate license as far as paying licensing fees. You have continuing education classes that you have to take. So it really just depends on what your goal is and whether or not you're going to make good use with that real estate license. You don't necessarily need a real estate license to invest. Some people, what they do is they just work with professionals when they're ready to, like, let's say, put their house on the market. They'll just work with another professional. So it's really more of a personal decision as to whether or not you think it's beneficial for you to have a real estate license. I have a license, but I had more so gotten in on the sales side, even though I was doing a little bit of investing. But now I primarily focus on the investing side. And, you know, also, too, with a real estate license, you can keep in mind that you can refer deals to people and earn a fee. So, like, let's say, for instance, your cousin tells you that they want to sell their house. You know, you can refer it to another agent and earn a referral fee. So having a license does have its plus and minuses. I know that some investors, they say that they don't want a license because with having a license, you are obligated to disclose. So like when you go to buy a property, for instance, you do have to disclose that you have a real estate license because it's almost like you have one leg up on the general public. So I would say that those are the differences between having a license and not having a license. Let's see. Okay, so again, any other questions, just feel free to actually, like, we can do a call together, or I can also do another Q&A. So I want to thank you for joining me. Bye now.